Assalamu alaikum. There will always be people who test your patience. There will always be moments that provoke your anger, words that hurt, actions that annoy, and situations that feel completely unfair. But the truth is, how you respond says far more about you than it does about anyone else. This life is not about controlling others, it is about controlling yourself. And the moment you realize that your peace does not need to depend on other people's behavior, you begin to unlock a level of freedom that very few ever taste. Let us be honest, people will speak without thinking. They will misunderstand you, some may insult you, some may disappoint you, some will simply not know how to deal with you. But you are not here to react to every word. You are not here to match their energy. You are here to respond with wisdom, with dignity, and with patience. Anger is easy. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can slam a door. Anyone can shoot back a hurtful message. But it takes strength to smile and walk away. It takes strength to forgive. It takes strength to hold your tongue when your heart is raging. Ask yourself, is your peace really worth giving up for a comment? Is your happiness so fragile that it breaks with one person's bad behavior? When you truly anchor your heart in faith, in the remembrance of the Almighty, you realize that nothing and no one can disturb you without your permission. You are in charge of your emotions. You are not a slave to them. You are not weak. You are not helpless. You have the ability to remain calm even in chaos, to remain soft even when the world tries to harden you. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that the strong person is not the one who overcomes others in wrestling, but the one who controls himself when he is angry. That is strength, and that strength is built over time. It is built through prayer, through reflection, through silence, through choosing to walk away when everything inside you is screaming to fight. When you feel your anger rising, pause, take a deep breath. Say a prayer, remove yourself from the situation if you must. You do not have to win the argument. You do not have to respond to every insult. Your dignity is not on trial in every conversation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. No reaction, no defense, just stillness. That silence speaks louder than shouting ever could. It shows maturity, it shows self-respect, and it shows that your peace is not up for negotiation. Remember, people project what is inside them. When someone is bitter, they try to make others bitter. When someone is hurting, they often hurt others, but you are not responsible for their pain. You are responsible for your response. Do not inherit their anger. Do not absorb their negativity. Let it pass through you like wind through an open window. Do not let it stay. This level of self-control is not built overnight. It comes from working on your heart daily. Ask yourself what triggers you. Why does it trigger you? What insecurities or fears lie behind that anger? Begin to clean your heart of arrogance, of ego, of the need to always be right. You are not here to prove yourself to people. You are here to please your Lord, and your Lord loves patience. He loves humility. He loves those who swallow their anger for his sake. Every time you hold back when you could have exploded, you earn reward. Every time you forgive when you could have fought back, you grow. You see, peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of clarity, of purpose, of knowing that your value does not come from how others treat you. It comes from how close you are to the one who created you. Spend time every day in reflection. Read, pray, make dhikr, talk to Allah, tell him what bothers you, tell him what weighs you down, and then leave it with him. Let him handle what you cannot control. When you offload your burdens to the one who never tires, you will find yourself less angry, less reactive, more centered. And when you feel anger bubbling, remember the reward that is written for those who restrain their emotions. You are not losing by walking away. You are winning. You are not weak for staying silent. You are strong. Do not let people drag you down to their level. Lift yourself with patience. Let your character be your response. Let your peace speak for itself. And above all, never forget that the one who sees everything also sees the battles you fight in silence. So choose calm, choose prayer, choose silence when words are dangerous. Choose growth over ego, and trust that every time you walk away from conflict, every time you choose peace over reaction, you are walking toward your Lord. That is where true power lies, and that is the kind of peace that cannot be shaken. True inner peace does not begin when the world stops bothering you. It does not begin when everyone agrees with you, treats you kindly, or speaks to you respectfully. It begins the moment you realize that your emotions, your reactions, and your heart are within your own control. It begins when you stop waiting for others to behave a certain way, and you start managing what lies within you. The illusion that you must fix the people around you, or make them treat you differently, is the very thing that keeps many people restless. The truth is, you cannot control others, but you can work on mastering yourself, and that mastery is where real peace lies. When a person becomes emotionally reactive to everything around them, they give up their power. They allow every word, every look, every opinion to pull them in different directions. One insult can ruin their entire day. One misunderstanding can lead to an explosion. This is not freedom. This is slavery to the world's chaos. Inner peace, however, is when you are no longer shaken by people's ignorance, when you no longer depend on others for your calm, when you no longer need everyone's approval to feel worthy. It is when your heart is grounded in something much deeper than the opinions or actions of people. It is grounded in your connection with the one who never changes. If your sense of worth is tied to how others treat you, then your emotional state will constantly rise and fall. One compliment lifts you, one criticism crushes you. But if your value is anchored in your relationship with Allah, in your purpose, in your efforts to grow and become better, then nothing and no one can take that away from you. People can mock, but they cannot define you. They can ignore you, but they cannot erase your worth. They can challenge you, but they cannot shake you, because your strength is coming from within, not from outside. There is power in knowing that your emotions belong to you, that your anger, your frustration, your sadness, they are yours to manage, not others to control. When you understand this, you begin to choose your responses rather than being dragged into them. You learn that not everything deserves a reaction, that some things are not worth your time or energy, that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. This awareness creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you find your strength. Many people believe that peace will come when their environment becomes perfect, when their spouse changes, when their children behave better, when their co-workers stop annoying them. But peace that depends on people or situations is fragile, because people are not perfect. They will disappoint, forget, hurt, and misunderstand. Situations will shift, plans will fall apart, life will not always go your way. And if your peace is built on conditions, it will crumble when those conditions are not met. But peace that comes from within, peace that is nurtured by prayer, remembrance, patience, and self-control, that peace is solid. It can withstand storms. It can remain intact even when everything outside is falling apart. There is wisdom in the guidance that tells us to remain calm, to forgive, to restrain our anger. These are not weaknesses. These are strengths. It takes far more strength to remain silent than to shout, far more wisdom to walk away than to fight, far more courage to let go than to hold on to every offense. The person who can look at a situation, recognize the provocation, and still choose peace, is a person who is deeply powerful. They are not reacting out of ego, but responding from a place of maturity and spiritual clarity. Working on inner peace means understanding your triggers. It means asking yourself hard questions. Why does this comment make me angry? Why do I feel the need to prove myself? Why do I let others disturb my calm so easily? Often it is not about the other person. It is about something unresolved within us, a wound, a fear, an insecurity. When we begin to notice these things without judgment, we begin to heal. And as we heal, we react less. We breathe more, we listen more, we forgive more, we become more intentional and less impulsive. Part of this journey is spiritual. When the heart is filled with remembrance of Allah, it is harder to become unsettled by what people do. When you wake up with a prayer, walk with D, hikr on your tongue, and remember that every moment is being watched and recorded by your Creator. Your priorities shift. What matters is not what others think or say. What matters is whether your Lord is pleased with your response. That awareness alone keeps many people calm. They see beyond the surface, they understand the test, and so they respond with dignity. Also, inner peace comes with letting go of the need to control others. You realize that people are not your responsibility to fix. Their mood, their attitude, their behavior, that is their journey, not yours. You can offer kindness, but you are not responsible for how they receive it. You can speak truth, but you are not accountable for whether they accept it. When you free yourself from the need to manage everyone, you return your energy to where it belongs yourself. You begin to invest in your growth, your discipline, your spiritual well-being. And in doing so, you gain peace. Sometimes the people who test your patience the most are the very tools used by Allah to refine you. They expose what still needs healing within you. They uncover your weak points. They give you a chance to practice restraint. So instead of viewing them as enemies to your peace, see them as mirrors, see them as opportunities to rise. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you grow. Every time you let something go that once disturbed you, you are lighter, freer, stronger. Remember, inner peace is not something you find, it is something you create. It is a decision you make over and over again, every day. It is built through daily habits, through prayer, through reflection, through forgiveness, through quiet moments with your Lord. It is built by choosing not to hold on to everything, by realizing that most things are not worth your peace. The more you protect your peace, the more resilient you become. The more you return to Allah, the less you depend on people to validate or comfort you. You were not created to be tossed around by every wave of emotion. You were created to be steady, to stand firm, to live with purpose. And when you begin to understand that real peace is not outside you but within you, then you begin to live from a place of power. You begin to see that you can face any situation, interact with any kind of person, and still maintain your calm, because that calm is not theirs to break. It is yours to preserve, and when you preserve it, you honor your Lord, your soul, and your path. Anger is a natural emotion. It rises when we feel threatened, disrespected, ignored, or hurt. It is the human reaction to things that feel unfair, unjust, or deeply painful. But in the journey of spiritual and emotional growth, we come to learn that while anger is natural, it does not have to be in control. It does not have to lead the way. There is a higher response, one rooted in faith, wisdom, and calm. Anger may knock on your door, but you do not have to let it take over your home. You can feel it and still choose peace. That choice again and again is what builds true inner strength. It is easy to get angry. It is even easier to react when something hurts you or when someone crosses a boundary. But the true power lies in knowing that peace is always an option. Peace is not weakness. It is not about avoiding confrontation. It is about mastering your emotions so that you don't lose your balance every time someone else loses theirs. It is about choosing your response rather than allowing your reaction to control you. Faith teaches us that the one who can control their anger has a higher rank than the one who is known for physical strength. Because controlling anger requires internal discipline, awareness, and self-restraint. When you choose peace in a moment of provocation, you are not pretending that what happened is okay. You are simply refusing to let someone else decide how you will feel and behave. You are not giving power to the insult, to the rudeness, or to the injustice. You are keeping your power where it belongs with you, and more importantly, you are keeping your heart aligned with your higher purpose. When you react with anger, you are reacting from the ego, but when you respond with calm and clarity, you are responding from the soul. That is the difference between just reacting and living consciously. Faith is a guide in this process. When you believe that everything is seen by Allah, that every test is measured and purposeful, and that every act of patience is rewarded, you begin to see anger as a test, not just a feeling. You begin to pause before reacting. You remind yourself that Allah loves those who restrain their anger. You remember that for every time you swallow your rage for His sake, there is a reward waiting for you that no one can take away. This perspective shifts everything. Suddenly, walking away is not losing, it is winning. Remaining silent is not weakness, it is power. We all have moments where our emotions rise quickly. Maybe someone said something that hit a nerve. Maybe someone lied about us, disrespected us, or treated us unfairly. In those moments, anger feels justified, and perhaps it is. But even then, we are still responsible for how we act. Even when our anger is valid, How we express it determines whether we grow or break ourselves and others. You can acknowledge your feelings without letting them destroy you. You can speak truth without shouting. You can correct someone without insulting them. You can stand up for yourself without lowering your character. When you begin to value your peace more than the temporary satisfaction of an angry reaction, you change. You begin to let go of petty arguments. You begin to overlook things that used to ruin your day. You begin to feel lighter. That heaviness that anger leaves behind no longer sits on your chest. You learn to walk away not because you are afraid, but because you are focused, because you have better things to protect your faith, your heart, your time, and your energy. Not everyone deserves a response. Not every provocation deserves attention. Sometimes silence is the loudest response. Anger often blinds us. In the heat of the moment, we say things we do not mean. We damage relationships. We act from impulse, not wisdom, and afterward we feel regret. The pain we caused with our words or our silence lingers. That is why we are encouraged to pause, to breathe, to seek refuge in Allah from Shaitan. Because sometimes the one provoking you is not even fully aware of what they're doing, but Shaitan is aware. He wants that fire inside you to burn everything around you, your peace, your relationships, your sense of purpose, and if you let it, that fire will destroy. But if you pause, if you call upon Allah, if you remember that you have control, you can put out the fire before it spreads. Anger is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up as silent resentment, as passive aggression, as a cold heart. It is important to recognize those forms too, because they also rob you of peace. They also disconnect you from your true self. If you are holding on to silent anger, reflect on it. Where is it coming from? What is it teaching you? And how can you release it in a healthy way? Forgiveness, communication, prayer, these are tools to cleanse the heart. The goal is not to suppress anger, but to understand and transform it. When we consistently practice peace, it becomes a habit. It becomes second nature to smile instead of frown, to breathe instead of explode, to seek understanding instead of revenge. And the beauty of this habit is that it influences those around us too. People begin to feel safe in your presence. They feel your calm, and often your calmness helps them calm down too. You become a source of peace, not just for yourself, but for your family, your community, and your environment. This is the ripple effect of choosing peace over reaction. It is worth noting that choosing peace does not mean tolerating abuse or injustice. It means responding wisely. It means setting boundaries with respect. It means standing up for yourself with grace. It means protecting your dignity without losing your soul. It is not about being silent in the face of oppression. It is about being wise enough to know how and when to speak, and how to do it in a way that uplifts, not destroys. It is about rising above without looking down on others. This way of being is not achieved in one day. It is a journey. Some days you will succeed, other days you may slip. That is okay. What matters is that you keep returning to your intention, that you keep striving, that you keep asking Allah for help. Because no one can tame their anger without divine support, and no one who sincerely seeks it is ever left without it. With time, you will notice that what used to trigger you no longer affects you. What used to make your blood boil now barely registers. You will begin to taste the sweetness of silence, the sweetness of letting things go, the sweetness of walking away with your peace intact. And when you reach that point, you'll realize that the true victory was never in winning the argument. It was in winning yourself. It was in keeping your heart clean. It was in being a reflection of the calm and mercy you hope for from your Lord. The best way to deal with people who bother you is to rise above, not retaliate. It may sound simple, but in practice it requires patience, self-awareness, and a deep sense of purpose. Life is filled with people who misunderstand, criticize, provoke, or try to bring you down. Some do it intentionally. Others are simply acting from their own wounds, insecurities, or ignorance. But regardless of their reasons, your response is your responsibility. And in that moment of choice, you are either choosing to rise above or to lower yourself to a level that does not reflect your true character. When someone bothers you, the natural instinct is to defend yourself, to respond, to make them feel what they made you feel. But if you pause and look at the bigger picture, you will see that not all battles are worth fighting. Not all comments deserve a reply, not all opinions need your energy. You begin to understand that your peace is more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of revenge, that holding on to your calmness is far more powerful than proving someone wrong. There is strength in restraint, there is dignity in walking away, and there is wisdom in choosing silence over unnecessary confrontation. You cannot stop people from being who they are. Some will always find a reason to criticize. Some will gossip, some will mock, some will judge you without ever trying to understand your story, but their behavior is a reflection of them, not of you. What you can do is decide that their words will not enter your heart. You can choose to rise, to protect your mind, your spirit, and your heart from the poison of negativity. You do this not out of arrogance or weakness, but out of a sincere desire to preserve your focus and maintain your connection with what truly matters. When you react to every insult, you give others control over your emotions. You become like a feather in the wind, blown in every direction by what people say or do. But when you rise above, you stand firm. You remain anchored in values, in faith, and in clarity. You no longer depend on people's approval to feel worthy, and you no longer let their criticism shake your foundation. This is where real freedom begins. Because no one can steal your peace unless you allow them to. Imagine a person who throws stones at a mountain. The mountain does not move, it does not speak, it does not throw anything back. It remains solid, unmoved, and unbothered. That is the image of someone who has mastered the art of rising above. When you truly know your worth, when you are connected to your purpose, when you are walking a path that is guided by divine clarity, you stop looking back at every distraction. You stop giving energy to every provocation. You stop wasting your breath on people who are committed to misunderstanding you. One of the most powerful teachings in life is that responding with goodness can melt the hardest hearts. When someone is rude and you respond with kindness, it confuses them. It disarms their aggression. It shows that you are not on their level. It shows that you are operating from a higher place, and even if they do not change, you are not doing it for them. You are doing it for yourself, for your growth, for your peace, for your connection with Allah, because every time you choose grace over anger, you elevate yourself. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, you set yourself free. It is also important to remember that not every person who bothers you is your enemy. Sometimes people act out of their own pain. Sometimes they are struggling with things you cannot see. Sometimes they lack emotional awareness or communication skills. Rising above does not mean tolerating abuse, but it means understanding that people are complex and not everything is about you. You do not have to take things personally. You can choose to observe without absorbing. You can choose to empathize without engaging. In rising above, you also protect your future. Because the emotional energy you waste on drama, arguments, and negativity is energy you could use to grow, to build, to heal. When your heart is full of anger, there is less space for joy. When your mind is busy with revenge, there is less clarity for purpose. You begin to realize that every moment you spend entangled in the bitterness of others is a moment stolen from your own progress. So you make a choice, you detach, you let go, you move forward. There is also a spiritual dimension to rising above. When you forgive someone who does not deserve it, you are trusting that Allah will handle what you cannot. You are saying, I will not carry this burden because I believe the one who sees all will take care of it. This is not weakness, this is strength through faith. This is saying, I refuse to let this person live rent-free in my mind, I choose to be free. And that freedom brings peace like nothing else. It allows you to sleep without resentment, to smile without guilt, to move without chains. Even in relationships and families, you will face moments where people push your buttons. But you do not have to react to everything. You can choose to pause, to breathe, to ask yourself, is this really worth disturbing my peace? You will find that most things are not. You begin to practice this in small ways. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you let it go. Someone criticizes you unfairly, you remain quiet. Someone gossips about you, you pray for them and move on. Each time you do this, you grow stronger, your peace becomes more stable. Your heart becomes more guarded against negativity. You will not always get an apology, you will not always get closure, you will not always be understood, but you will always have a choice to rise. A choice to forgive, a choice to move on, and when you consistently choose that higher road, your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, your life becomes simpler, you are no longer a prisoner of other people's emotions. You are in control of your own. There is a certain beauty in not letting the world shake you, in walking through life with grace, calm, and confidence, in knowing that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. When you rise above, you do not look down on others, you simply look forward. You do not respond to everything, you reserve your energy for what truly matters. You protect your peace not because you are better than others, but because you understand that peace is rare and worth preserving. It takes practice, it takes prayer, it takes self-reflection, but with time you begin to see how much better life becomes when you stop allowing others to control how you feel. When you rise above, you not only protect yourself, you become an example. You become a source of strength and inspiration for others, and you begin to live a life that is driven not by ego, but by purpose. That is a life worth living, and that is the path to lasting inner peace. The one who controls their temper in times of provocation is truly strong. Strength is often misunderstood. Many people assume that strength is found in physical power, in raising one's voice, in overpowering others with arguments, or in standing their ground with visible aggression. But real strength, the kind that is respected in the heavens and admired in the quiet hearts of the wise, is subtle. It is unseen. It happens in silence when no one is clapping for you. It happens when you could have exploded, but you remained calm. It happens when your heart is boiling, but your face is serene. It happens when your pride is wounded, but you choose humility over retaliation. There are few moments more defining in life than the ones in which we are deeply provoked. Whether it is an insult, a betrayal, a false accusation, or simply someone pressing all the wrong buttons on a difficult day, how we respond in that critical moment says more about us than any words we speak in peace. The person who can master their emotions when everything inside them is screaming for release is not weak, they are truly powerful. They are not suppressing weakness. They are exhibiting remarkable self-governance. Because controlling anger is not about being passive or bottling up emotions, it is about making a conscious choice to not allow temporary emotions to destroy permanent relationships, inner peace, or one's standing with the Almighty. People often confuse emotional outbursts with authenticity, believing that expressing every emotion, especially anger, is a sign of being real or strong. But there is a world of difference between honesty and recklessness. Honesty speaks with intention, with calmness, and with purpose. Recklessness reacts without considering the consequences. The truly strong person is not ruled by their emotions. They feel everything deeply, but they are not commanded by those feelings. They know when to speak and when to remain silent. They know when to act and when to wait. They are deliberate. They have trained themselves to pause, to breathe, to reflect. It takes a powerful soul to look someone in the eyes who is shouting or being cruel and choose not to mirror that energy. It takes strength to walk away when you know you could win the argument. It takes strength to forgive when you know the other person is wrong. It takes strength to remain kind when others are not. But this strength is not natural for most, it is cultivated. It is built over time through prayer, through reflection, through learning from failures, and through sincere effort. Every time you choose patience over anger, you are strengthening that muscle. You are teaching your soul that it does not have to follow the path of least resistance. That it can take the higher road. The reality is, anger is easy. Anyone can get angry. It takes no training, no effort, no wisdom. But to control your anger, to harness it and transform it into clarity, understanding, or even silence requires tremendous inner discipline. That is why it is so beloved in the sight of the Creator, because it reflects a heart that is connected to something greater than the ego. It reflects a person who is not a prisoner to their impulses. And it reflects someone who is conscious of the weight of their actions, not just in this world, but in the hereafter. In moments of anger, everything seems urgent. The desire to prove yourself, to respond, to defend it can feel overwhelming. But if you pause, even for a few breaths, the intensity often fades. What felt like a fire inside becomes a flicker, and in that pause there is wisdom. There is space for perspective. You begin to ask, is this worth it? Will this matter tomorrow? Is this how I want to be remembered? Am I responding from the best version of myself? And most importantly, what would Allah love me to do in this moment? These questions guide the strong. They create room for better choices. Often, people regret what they say or do in anger. Relationships are damaged, hearts are broken, respect is lost, and apologies, while powerful, do not always undo the harm. Words cannot be unsaid. Actions cannot be erased. That is why it is better to hold yourself in those few moments of rage than to spend days, months, or even years trying to repair what could have been avoided. The strong person remembers this. They remind themselves of the consequences before they allow their anger to take the lead. They do not allow others to pull them into darkness. They stay rooted in the light of self-control. Another layer of strength lies in understanding what triggers your anger. When you reflect on the moments you have lost your temper, you often find that the cause was not only external. It was something within, a wound, an insecurity, a fear. The strong do not just react, they investigate. They ask, why did this upset me so deeply? What am I really afraid of? What part of me feels threatened? And through that reflection, they begin to heal. They begin to recognize that some of their anger is not about others at all, it is about themselves. And so, in learning to control their temper, they also learn to heal their heart. Strength is also found in not needing to be right all the time. The ego tells you to argue until the other person agrees. It wants to win, but the strong person understands that being at peace is more important than being right. They are secure enough to let others have the last word if needed. They do not need validation from every conversation. They know their value. They walk with quiet confidence, and this in itself disarms the need to prove, to shout, to react. In a world that often celebrates aggression, arrogance, and dominance, choosing to be calm, humble, and composed is revolutionary. It goes against the tide, but it brings with it a different kind of power, the power that allows you to walk through storms without being shaken. The power that allows you to deal with difficult people without losing your values. The power that allows you to live with fewer regrets, deeper relationships, and a cleaner conscience. This strength also builds trust. People feel safe with someone who does not explode at every mistake. Children, spouses, colleagues, friends, they all feel more secure around someone who is emotionally stable. Your calmness becomes a shelter. Your presence becomes a place of peace, and this is one of the greatest gifts you can give to the people around you. Even when others do not acknowledge your strength, know that it is seen by the one who matters most. Every time you hold your tongue, every time you let something go, every time you walk away from a fight, every time you forgive, it is recorded, it is valued, it brings light to your soul and reward to your scale. And over time, as you continue to practice this form of strength, you find that your life becomes more peaceful, you are less drained, you are more focused, you are no longer at the mercy of others' behavior. You are led by principle, by purpose, and by the quiet power of self-control. Consistent hikah, prayer, and self-reflection help purify the heart from irritation and ego. The heart, by nature, is a vessel that is affected by what it is exposed to. It absorbs what we feed it: words, thoughts, experiences, and emotions. And over time, if we do not consciously cleanse it, it begins to fill with dust, resentment, pride, jealousy, impatience, and irritation. These are not just emotional habits, they are spiritual weights. They cloud our judgment, disturb our peace, and prevent us from seeing clearly. But the beauty of the heart is that it can be cleaned, softened, and refined. And among the most powerful tools for this process are hikah, prayer, and reflection. When a person makes hikah, they are not simply repeating words. They are opening a line of connection with the Creator. Every time you say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, or any other phrase of remembrance, you are actively pulling your heart away from the noise of this world and turning it back to the one who made you. The more consistently you do this, the more your heart starts to align with peace. You begin to feel a stillness within, even when life is loud around you, because remembrance brings presence. It roots you in the now. It reminds you of who you are and who you belong to. It lifts the burden of ego, because when you say Allahu Akbar, God is greater, you are acknowledging that your anger, your pride, your irritation, your stress are not greater than Him. When the heart is filled with dhikr, it has less room for arrogance. It becomes softer. It no longer feels the constant need to react, to fight, to prove. It becomes patient, not because everything is easy, but because it is deeply connected to a source of strength that never runs out. When someone bothers you, instead of responding with anger, your tongue remembers to say something kind or to say nothing at all. Not because you are suppressing, but because you are purifying. Because dhikr is training your soul to return to peace. And prayer salah is not just a ritual, it is a sanctuary, a 5 times a day reminder to pause, breathe and recalibrate. When you stand in prayer, you leave behind the world's chaos. You stand before the one who knows every pain, every test, every emotion you carry. You bow, and your ego bows with you. You place your head on the ground, and all the weight on your shoulders begins to lighten. Consistent prayer does not just fulfill an obligation, it builds spiritual discipline. It teaches you patience, humility, and silence. It teaches you to listen, and over time, this discipline extends beyond prayer itself. It reaches into your interactions, your decisions, your emotional reactions. The person who prays regularly begins to develop a shield, not from hardship, but from responding to hardship with recklessness. They begin to feel a sense of stability that others may not understand. Not because their life is perfect, but because their foundation is strong. When someone offends them, they do not immediately respond with rage. Their first instinct may be to pause, to make wudu, to pray. And in that moment, they are protecting their peace by leaning into their faith. Salah becomes a place where the heart is reminded of what matters and everything else becomes secondary. Reflection is also a necessary companion on this journey. Without reflection, habits are formed blindly, anger goes unchecked, ego remains hidden. But when you sit with yourself and ask, why did I react that way? What triggered me? What am I holding on to? You start to uncover the roots of your irritation. Often, the things that bother us externally are connected to unresolved matters internally. A sharp word from someone may feel like an insult, but it could be poking at an insecurity. A disagreement may feel like a personal attack, but it might actually be a fear of losing control. When you reflect with honesty, you begin to recognize the ego, and once you recognize it, you can begin to release it. The ego is subtle. It tells you that you must win every argument, that your way is the only right way. That if someone disrespects you, you must respond with more force. But the more you feed the ego, the more restless your heart becomes. You lose sleep over conversations. You replay arguments. You carry grudges. But when you turn inward and recognize the presence of ego, you create space to let it go. You start asking different questions. How would the person I want to become respond to this? What response would please Allah most? What will bring me peace not just today, but in the long term, as these practices dhikr, prayer and reflection become consistent, they form a cycle. Dhikr softens the heart and reminds you of your place in creation. Prayer disciplines the heart and allows you to release what weighs you down. Reflection sharpens your awareness and helps you avoid falling into the same emotional traps. Together, they purify you, and the purified heart becomes lighter. It no longer clings to irritations, it no longer seeks revenge, it no longer needs constant validation. It begins to find joy in stillness, in silence, in being unseen. It finds peace in pleasing Allah rather than pleasing the world. You begin to realize that not everything needs your attention, that most things are not worth disturbing your inner calm, that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. This does not mean you become passive or disengaged. It means you become intentional, you speak when it matters, you act when it is wise, you choose battles carefully, and often you choose peace over being right. There is beauty in this way of living. You smile more, you breathe deeper, you sleep better, you are no longer constantly in reaction mode. Your relationships improve because you are no longer projecting your stress onto others. You begin to live with more gratitude because you are no longer distracted by petty annoyances. And slowly, people start to notice. They may not understand it fully, but they feel your presence. They feel your calm. They come to you for advice. They feel safe around you. This change is not sudden. It is a slow, gentle transformation. It happens through small, consistent acts. A morning spent in quiet dhikr, a night prayer offered in sincerity, a journal filled with honest thoughts, an apology made without ego. A moment of restraint when your temper could have exploded. These are the bricks that build inner peace, and once you taste that peace, you will do anything to protect it. In a world that encourages loudness, quick reactions, and constant engagement, choosing to purify the heart is radical. It is a quiet revolution that begins inside and transforms everything outside. And the best part is, it is always available. No matter how far you've gone, how reactive you've been, or how heavy your heart feels, you can return. You can begin again with one word of dhikr, with one sincere prayer, with one moment of reflection. That is how purification begins. That is how the heart finds peace. In the journey toward inner peace, we come to realize that true strength lies not in loudness, but in stillness, not in reaction, but in reflection. The person who controls their anger, who chooses to rise above provocation, who remembers their Creator in moments of difficulty, is the one who has discovered the beauty of real strength. Through consistent remembrance, prayer, and sincere reflection, we begin to soften the heart, silence the ego, and find calm even in the face of chaos. It is not the world that needs to change first, it is the state of our own hearts. When we start cleansing what is within, the world outside begins to feel lighter, more manageable, more peaceful. May we strive each day to protect our peace, master our reactions, and connect deeply with the one who grants us calm beyond all understanding. May your heart be always at ease, your steps steady, and your soul guided with light. Until we meet again, stay in peace and remember to smile more, forgive faster, and let go sooner. Allah bless you and goodbye.